Hi, this verbling class will be about wine tasting. I personally am not an expert on wine tasting, but I thought that we could read an article together about it and hopefully all learn something at the same time. A blog that focuses on people who are beginning wine tasters, and so I thought we could go through that together and talk a little bit about the basics of wine tasting. I chose this class topic because I'm American, but I live in France at the moment, and here in France they produce a lot of wines, and they also really enjoy wine tasting and pairing wine with food and sitting around and talking about the different kinds of wine they're tasting. So I realized that it's a useful thing when you're learning another language to be able to talk about something that's part of the culture. And obviously wine is important in a lot of English-speaking cultures as well. So hopefully you will find this lesson relevant to your English learning. We'll be learning some wine-based vocabulary and also just talking about the importance of wine in cultures. I'd also like to hear about all of your cultures, whether wine drinking is an important part of your culture or whether it's not. So soon this class will open up to anyone who would like to join it. When it does, you can click the Join Class button to become a member of our class today. Classes are capped at 9 students. That means after 9 students, the class is full. So as many of you know, a lot of the classes on Verbling fill up pretty quickly. If you would like to have reserved spots in classes to make sure you get into the classes you want, definitely check out the Get Reservations tab on your Verbling site. There you can read more about Verbling Premium and other ways to get reservations. The class should now be open, so please click the Join Class button and come join us today. Like I said, we're going to be talking about wine tasting and how it works, how to do it, and if we have time, we'll just be getting some speaking practice and discussing wine a little bit more. So once we have, I'll wait about a few more seconds, and then we will get started with our class introductions. And looks like I know about half of you, and about half of you are new. I always love having other students come back and also getting to meet some new students. So, like many of you know, I like to have everyone introduce themselves to the class before we begin. So for those of you who have not been in a Verbling class with me yet, my name is Libby. I'm American, but like I said, I live in France now. I teach English to French high school students as a second language. And I've been drinking a lot of wine while I've been here and trying different kinds of wine. So that inspired me for this class. And so I would like for the introductions for you to tell me and everyone your name, what country you're in, and whether you prefer red or white wine. Or if you don't drink wine, you can say another beverage that you like to drink instead. This class, everyone is welcome in this class, whether you drink wine or not. I think it'll be some good vocabulary. So I'd like to hear your name, your country, and whether you prefer red or white wine. So I'm Libby, I'm in France, and I prefer red wine. And let's see, so now we can start with introductions. Abdullah, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm Abdullah from Egypt. I don't drink wine.
Okay, so then what's another beverage? Just anything you like to drink.
A hot drink or a cold drink, you mean?
Anything, doesn't matter.
Uh, I prefer a black tea with peppermint.
Oh, yes, that's awesome. I was just in Morocco and we drank a lot of black tea with peppermint. I really liked it.
All Arabs
Yeah. All right.
like that.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah,
Um, and now we'll go to Abdullah.
Hi, good morning. My name is Abdullah, and I'm from Germany. And I prefer to drink Turkish coffee. So I do not drink wine. I just prefer Turkish coffee.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next is Carlos.
Yes, hi. I'm Carlos. I'm from Mexico, and I like red wine with some food, and also I like white wine with other food. It
Yeah, that's true.
depends,
So it depends on what you're eating. Okay, good. Good answer.
but I think I prefer the red wine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Next we have Elchin. Sorry, that's probably wrong. Elchin, are you here? All right. Can't hear you, so try to see if your microphone's working. Otherwise, feel free to participate in the written chat area. And next is Huyen.
Hello. I'm not sure. Hello everyone, my name is Vin. I'm from Vietnam, and actually I've never drunk white wine, so for me red wine is the best.
You're muted, Libby.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thanks. All right, thanks, Huyen. And next is Igor.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. And I'm Igor. I'm from Republic of Moldova, and I do not usually drink wine. I drink wine only on special occasions, like birthday, maybe brides. No, brides. How to say?
A wedding?
Yes, weddings. But if I drink wine, I prefer both kind of wines. I think and red and white, but I do not have such preparations. Not preparation. Another word. How to say?
Yeah. You have no real preference, I guess.
Yes, I do not have real preferences because I do not drink such much wine. But
I
if
see.
I drink a small amount and only for occasion, for example, to celebrate something.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thanks. And last we have Shami.
Hello?
Shami, are you here?
Can you listen? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. You're a little bit quiet, but I can hear you.
I don't drink. My favorite beverage is lemon.
Okay, great. Thank you. And all right, so we will go ahead and get started with today's discussion. So a lot of you in the class either don't drink wine often or never drink wine. That's totally okay. The reason I chose this class topic is partly because it has a lot of really useful vocabulary for tasting something and enjoying the taste and trying to define what flavors are in it. And as many of you know, wine tasting is an art. There are people who dedicate their whole lives to wine tasting, and there are some people who can taste one kind of wine and they can tell you exactly where that wine is from, what kind of grapes it is made from, and how that particular wine was made, just from tasting it and not from knowing anything about it.
And how old is that wine?
Yes, exactly, and they can tell you what year the wine was made, or how old it is. So these people are pretty amazing. I will never be one of those people. I just enjoy drinking wine because I like it, and I'm not very sophisticated. Not as discerning as these sommeliers who can taste these wines. So don't worry, I don't expect you to become a sommelier after this class, but it is a lot of really good. It's a lot of really good vocabulary for taste and flavor. So I'm going to just start out by giving you this website, and we'll read through it together. It's not too long, but has a lot of dense information. So we're going to be stopping and going over the information, talking about what it means, and we're going to be basing our discussion on this beginning wine tasting article. So the title of the article is How to Taste Wine Like an Expert. And then underneath it says, Want to Learn How to Taste Wine. So let's just get started. There's going to be a lot of vocabulary in here. The title, the writing style of this article is very colloquial. That's because it's a blog, and a lot of blogs use this colloquial style. So that means the person's writing as if they are talking to you. Colloquial refers to conversation. So I like reading blogs because they really reflect individual writing styles, because the people write like they're talking to you. That's another reason it's important for English practice, because this is not written very simply. There are some words that might be a little more complicated. That's why I made this an advanced level class. So feel free to stop me, ask questions about sentence structure, about grammar, about vocabulary. I'm happy to answer anything that you have. So let's, and before we get into it, I love your comment about Google Smell. I don't know if anyone saw this, but on April Fool's Day, Google made a new product called Google Smell. And did anyone else see this joke webpage that they made? Yeah.
Yes.
On one of the lessons here on Verbling, someone did the lesson on this.
Oh, okay, good, yeah. So I'm glad someone did a lesson about Google Smell. So it's pretty funny thing. I thought it was a good job by Google on that. Okay, so let's get into the article then. Here we are. So like I said, it says Want to Learn How to Taste Wine. And I'll read the first paragraph. We'll talk about it, and then, as we usually do, I'll ask you guys to take turns reading paragraphs, and we'll talk about vocabulary and content in those paragraphs. So, want to learn how to taste wine. Tasting wine is arguably the single most important part of enjoying wine. Unfortunately, over time, proper tasting has become a trademark for holier-than-thou snobbery that runs rampant within wine culture. There is an intimidating expectation that there is a right way to taste wine, which usually includes unnecessary showmanship and vernacular. This guide focuses on practical techniques guaranteed to make you an awesome wine taster. All right. So I love this sentence in the middle of this paragraph. It says, unfortunately, over time, proper tasting has become a trademark for holier-than-thou snobbery that runs rampant within wine culture. So let's break down that sentence a little bit, because we have a few expressions in there that probably some of you have not heard before. So the first one is holier-than-thou snobbery. If you're acting holier than thou, that is an expression that we use to show that you think you're better than somebody else. It's a reference to religion, because holy is a synonym for sacred or being close to God. And so this is a reference to, historically in the past, when people were religious, if someone was acting like they were holier than thou, it means they were acting like they were more religious than you, or like they were better than you because they were closer to God than you were. And when we use the expression holier than thou snobbery, it means somebody is acting like they're better than you, in this case not referring to religion, but someone's acting like they're better than you and they're being a snob about it. Does anyone know what the word snob means or what a snob is?
I think snob refers to the very upper class who behaves in an annoying way, who are really snobbish. These are the rich people. They think that they know everything and that they are much better than other people.
That's exactly right. So a snob is someone who is usually rich, or at least pretends that they're rich, and it's someone who tends to act pretentious. That means, oh, look at me, and I look at me tasting my wine, and I'm so and I'm so rich and I'm so special. These are snobby people.
It's good characteristic or it's bad characteristic?
Definitely bad.
Bad.
If you call someone a snob, it's always a negative connotation. Good question. So a snob is someone who's usually rich and likes to show everyone that they're rich and that they're better. So the word snob and the adjective pretentious are always negative. Being rich is not necessarily negative. There are plenty of really wonderful, nice, rich people, but there are no nice snobs. Snobs are always bad. Okay. So holier than thou snobbery means you're acting pretentious and you're acting like you're better than everyone. And unfortunately, this author thinks that wine tasting has become that. People who taste wine act like they're better than everybody else because they know how to taste it, and they pretend that it's very difficult and that no one else can do it. So then it says there's an intimidating expectation that there is a right way to taste wine, which usually includes unnecessary showmanship and vernacular. Okay, more vocabulary. What does showmanship mean? The noun showmanship.
The ability to present something in an attractive manner.
Okay, good. So showmanship is the ability to show something. Showmanship is how you show what you're doing or how you demonstrate something. And often showmanship is used in a negative connotation as well, in a negative context. In this case, unnecessary showmanship. That means unnecessary showmanship kind of means like a look at me kind of thing. Oh, look at me, I can taste wine, look at me. So unnecessary showmanship means showing off or pretending that you're really cool when, maybe you're not. Unnecessary showmanship and vernacular. This is another great vocabulary word. What does vernacular mean?
It has something to do with language, I think. I think it's something to do with dialect of different regions, but I'm not sure if it's...
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. So vernacular just refers to specialized vocabulary that not everybody knows. So vernacular can exist in a specific dialect of a language. So you can have certain slang words or words that you use in a dialect. Those can be vernacular. But vernacular can also refer to the way a language is used in general. But what I would say is vernacular in this case refers to some special vocabulary. If you want, a real synonym for vernacular can just be words. And then another good question, is vernacular negative? No. Vernacular is not like showmanship. Vernacular just refers to specialized words. And in this case, the author thinks that vernacular is unnecessary. So that means that people who taste wine use a lot of words that people don't understand. But this is unnecessary. This vernacular doesn't need to be used. People could just use simpler words, but in this case, they're making it more complicated than they need to. So unnecessary vernacular means more words than you need to express what you're trying to say. Okay, any other questions about vocabulary or the way this person writes? Any other questions about this first paragraph? No. All right, good. Well, then, in that case, let's learn how to taste wine. This article gives us 5 steps in tasting wine, but first it tells us how to prepare for tasting wine. So the first paragraph about how to prepare for wine tasting is called wine tasting. So who would like to read this paragraph for us, this wine tasting paragraph?
May I?
Yes, go ahead, Abdullah.
Okay. Wine tasting. You already have a lot of clues about a wine, including its varietal, vintage, and producer. These clues will help give you an expectation for what a wine should taste like. Certain fruit flavors are more common or even exclusive to certain wine varietals. The more you pay attention to each flavor, the more refined your taste becomes. Identifying how a range of different wines taste comes with practice and experimentation. Tasting wine builds a catalog of images, smells, and flavors.
Good. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So this says you already have a lot of clues about a wine. These clues that you have before you taste a wine come from the wine label. So you have your bottle of wine and it has a label, paper label on the front. And the wine label tells you the varietal, the vintage, and the producer. So let's talk about those 3 things. On the label, you'll have the varietal, the vintage, and the producer. The first one is varietal. And I'm not actually sure if I pronounced that correctly. It could be varietal as well, but I would say varietal. You can check in your dictionary if you want, but it's also called a grape varietal. Does anyone know what that means? What a varietal is?
Made from a belonging to a single specified variety of grape.
Okay, good. So basically, in the simpler terms, it's just the kind of grape. The grape varietal is the kind of grape. So, like, if you are going to make Pinot Noir, there's Pinot Noir grapes, and so that's an example of a grape varietal. It's just the kind of grapes that you use to make the wine, and all the different kinds of grapes have names, and so that's the grape varietal. Then the vintage. What is a vintage?
Like an old thing.
Is it like a process of making wine?
The year or place in which wine of high quality was produced.
Good. So I had some good answers there. Somebody said vintage means something old. That's true. In general, the word vintage means something old, something that's kind of cool because it's old. So you can buy vintage clothes or vintage jewelry. Those are old things. Vintage cars, good example. But in this case, a grape vintage or a wine vintage refers to the year and or the place when the wine was made. So you can say the 1989 vintage. That means the wine that was made in 1989.
But why here is written that especially wine of high quality? Why they specified that in this dictionary?
Good question. I think it's because I'm not an expert on wine, but I think it's because you will refer to something being a good vintage. If something is a good vintage, that means it was a good year. It means the grapes were good that year and the wine was good that year. So vintage is usually a positive thing. If you usually say, that's a nice vintage, that's a good vintage. That means the weather conditions in that year made a very good grape harvest. They had very good grapes in the vineyard, and because of that, they made good wine that year. So if you say that's a good vintage, that means in that year, that particular wine was very good. So that's probably why, probably why they say that. I should have mentioned before, the place where they make wine, the place where they grow the grapes to make wine is called a vineyard. So they grow the grapes in a vineyard, and then they're processed after they are harvested. So that's more vocabulary. Okay, good. So we talked about varietal. That's the kind of grapes. We talked about vintage. That's the year and usually also the place where the wine was made. And the producer, you can probably guess. What does producer mean?
Who produces the wine?
Yeah.
Who make the wine?
Producer is just who makes it.
Without dictionary, we can say.
Yes.
Hey, don't cheat, guys.
This is not cheating. This is help.
Good,
I know,
yes.
I know. It's just a joke. Yeah.
Good. So sometimes you can tell a lot by a producer. There's a producer. Let's see. What's an example? There's a producer called.
Chardonnay. No, this is kind of wine.
Does anyone know the producer Moet Chandon?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
The one
Does
that
it-
makes the champagne.
Okay. And is it a good or bad champagne?
Good, really
Yes.
good.
So if you see champagne that's made by Moet Chandon, you know that it's one of the best champagnes in the world.
French.
Probably maybe the best. Yeah, it's French. And so that's an example of a producer where you know it's a very good producer. Another example of a producer is a company called Charles Shaw. This is an American company that produces wine. And Charles Shaw is a low-quality producer. It is known for being the wine that young people buy when they have no money. And it's really bad. But when you look at the wine, you can't tell. The label looks pretty nice. It looks like a nice, an okay bottle of wine. But once you know what Charles Shaw is, if somebody comes to your dinner party and they bring you a bottle of Charles Shaw, I personally might be a little bit offended because in the U.S., Charles Shaw is known for costing $2 a bottle. $2 for a bottle of Charles Shaw. And so because of that, we refer to, young people like me refer to this kind of wine as $2 Chuck. That means $2 is $2, and Chuck is an abbreviation for the name Charles. It's a very unsophisticated abbreviation. So if you say, let's go buy some $2 Chuck, that means you're going to go buy some bottles of Charles Shaw, which is really lousy, really bad wine.
But Moet Chandon, how much cost?
Oh, good question.
The middle bottle, the middle
I think
price
it's like
average.
$40 the bottle of champagne.
In France, if you buy a bottle of Moet Chandon in a restaurant, it's usually about 80 euros. So that's a little bit over $100.
It's too expensive, no?
Yeah, I've never had it in my life. I don't know what it tastes like. But actually, it's interesting. The term champagne, real champagne is only made in the Champagne region of France.
Yeah.
And all other champagne that's made around the world is just sparkling wine. They're not allowed to call it champagne because it's not made in the Champagne region.
But you can add the word, for example, New York champagne, or and you can produce this bottle, or Moldavian champagne, for example.
And people often call it champagne when it's really sparkling wine. But technically, if you want to use the word champagne to refer to your product, you're supposed to have it been produced in France. So. Interesting fact. Okay. Good. So we learned about varietal, vintage, and producer. Now let's go on to the next paragraph, which says, "Where has your mouth been?" Who would like to read this paragraph?
Where?
Me.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Where has your mouth been? If you just finished choking down a Big Mac and a half carton of cigarettes, you are going to have a bad time tasting wine. Make sure your mouth is clean and that you're well hydrated. Hydrated or hydrated?
Hydrated.
Hydrated. Don't brush your teeth immediately before wine tasting. Not only will it be harder to taste wine, it might actually increase the chance of staining your teeth.
Okay, awesome. Good. So you need to have a clean mouth before you taste wine, and you need to be well hydrated. What does it mean to be well hydrated?
To not be without water, how to say?
Yeah, it means, so to be well
Enough
hydrated means,
water.
yeah, to have drunk enough water before you
taste
begin tasting. Good. Okay. What is a Big Mac? What is a Big Mac?
From McDonald's.
Hamburger
Yeah.
from McDonald's.
Fast
Yeah.
food,
Hamburger. It's a hamburger.
Yeah, it's a special kind of hamburger from McDonald's. So don't have a Big Mac and cigarettes before you taste wine, okay? Make sure you're hydrated, you have a clean mouth. And why should you not brush your teeth before drinking wine? What does this article say? Why should you not brush your teeth?
It'd be harder to taste wine, and you will staining your teeth.
Good. Makes it harder to taste wine, and it makes it so that you might stain your teeth. You might
Color
get some
color.
Yeah, you might get
red.
some red color on your teeth. I heard somewhere that the higher the quality of the wine, the less likely it is to stain your mouth and to stain your teeth. So if you have a high quality red wine, if it's a very good wine, you're less likely to stain your teeth and your tongue with the wine. But if you drink Charles Shaw and it's red, you're more likely to have stains on your teeth. And
But how we can explain this from a scientific point of view?
Oh, good question.
What is the difference between high quality, what in high quality contains that low quality doesn't contain?
I don't know. It depends.
Wine only a low quality is with much sugar they put on low quality, but in high quality no sugar much.
Yeah, you know, it might be something like that. I tried Googling it, but it only has things about how to remove wine stains. So I don't know, but I will. If I find out, I'll post it on my Facebook page so you can see.
I drink the same, the low quality and high quality wines, and the same on taste for me, and the same for me, for example.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
depends,
not
I guess.
taste wine not taste.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to know the difference between good and bad quality wines unless you have a lot of wine tasting experience, which I don't. Okay, quick question from David. David says, can you call champagne or sparkling wine spumante in English? Because that's how they call it in Italy. Yes, we do have Italian sparkling wines that are called spumante. That is a word you can say in English. Did someone else have another question?
Yes, Libby. What's the difference between red and white wine?
Good question.
Really, really good question. Sorry, I should back up and say that. So obviously, when you drink red and white wine, you can tell the difference because of the color. Red wine is red, and white wine is, well, it's not white, but it's it's yellow, I guess you could say. And so the reason that the colors are different is because in red wine you use red grapes.
Red grapes and fruit.
And you use the skin when you ferment the grapes. And so because the skin of the grapes is red, the color of the wine becomes red as well. So red wine is red grapes, and white wine is white grapes, we say. So those are the green grapes, really. And you also can make white wine with red grapes if you don't use the skins. So it's possible to make white wine with red grapes as long as you don't include the skins in what you make.
Is red wine more concentrated than white?
Good question. Not necessarily. It depends, but let's see. That's a good question. I only drink red wine, so I actually don't know much about the alcohol content of white wine. Red wines usually range between about 11 to 15% alcohol, and white wines I think are around the same thing. There's also other kinds of wines like port wines. Port wines have about 20% alcohol, and those are made in a different way. champagne has a little bit lower alcohol than wine does. So it depends on the kind, but I think red and white, it's approximately similar. It's similar alcohol content. Yeah.
What is port wine?
Port wine is a special kind of wine that is made with. Oh my goodness! I just did a.
Where is originally this wine?
Port wine is a dessert wine, so it's sweeter, and it's more concentrated. It's sweeter and it's more concentrated, so it has a higher percentage of alcohol. And you usually drink it when you have dessert. You just have like one little glass of port wine with dessert. Sometimes it tastes almost like whiskey or like scotch. It has a stronger, more oaky taste than regular wine. So.
I have a question.
Yes.
I want to ask about white wine and red wine. Is it because the different varietal of grapes, or is it because one is ripened and the other is unripened?
So it's because of the different kinds of grapes. Yeah.
Okay.
The different kinds of grapes.
That's a kind of grape that when it ripens, it's green. Is that correct?
Yeah, so red wines are made from red grapes, and white wines are made from green grapes, or we also call them white grapes.
I have one question.
Yes.
What's it? Do you have a Cabernet Sauvignon in red wine and white wine?
Can you repeat the question again? Sorry, I couldn't really hear you.
I know. I'm from Chile. Chile export a lot of wine.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have the name of the wine is Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah.
Do you know that kind of wine?
No, I don't know. I don't know that kind of wine. Can you type in the name in the Ribbling classes, and then maybe I can look up and see, because I've had wine from Chile before, but I don't. I'm not very familiar with Chilean wines.
Okay.
But maybe I've tried it at some point. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, and
another question.
Yeah.
So when wine, like when a kind of wine has a high percentage of alcohol in it, what do you call it? Like, is it easier to make us drunk? So what do you call, like, what's the adjective for it? Is it sharp?
Good. So when a wine has the higher alcohol content, what's the adjective to describe it?
Yes.
Good question. I would say, I mean, a wine that has more alcohol, you could use the word stronger. You could just say it's a stronger wine. Or more commonly, you could say it's more alcoholic. So 15% wine is more alcoholic than 12% wine. So yeah, I guess more alcoholic would be the answer. There's not really a good word for it though. You can just say it has more alcohol in it. And then here's another important lesson that I'll discuss quickly, which is the lesson about proof. Does anyone know what the word proof means with regards to alcohol?
No.
Related to alcohol?
Yeah, so I'll explain. So when we talk about alcohols like beer, wine, liquor, we usually give the percent alcohol. That means what percentage of that liquid is alcohol. So in wine, it's between 11 and 15%. So that means out of all that liquid, about 15% of it is pure alcohol. So the proof system is another way of expressing how much alcohol is in something. And it's kind of weird. I don't know who invented it, but 200 proof is 100% alcohol. So if something is 200 proof, that means it's all alcohol. So normal liquors like rum and vodka are generally around 80 proof. So based on what I told you, if something is 80 proof, what
40.
percentage of alcohol is it?
40.
Okay, so good. So you'll see on the front of liquor bottles in the US and probably around the world, 80 proof. That if something is 80 proof, that means it's 40% alcohol. So let's talk about, let's see, if a wine is 14% alcohol, how would you express that in proof? What proof
80.
is that?
28.
Yeah, so 14% alcohol is going to be 28 proof. So basically, to find the proof, you just double the percent alcohol. And to find the percent alcohol, you take half of the proof. So proof and percent alcohol are the two ways that we say how much alcohol is in something. Okay, good. And let's see. And Alfredo, I Googled the kind of wine you mentioned, and I don't recognize it. I haven't had it before, but I'm sure it's available in the U.S. because we have a lot of Chilean wines as well. All right, cool. So we're running out of time a little bit, so maybe I'll have to do another class on this. But let's go through quickly how to actually go through tasting this wine. How to taste wine step by step, and the first step number 1 is look. Who would like to read the paragraph that says look?
I can read.
Okay, go ahead, Gwen.
Yeah. You use this step. Look. Use this step to get in the mindset of tasting. Look at the shade of color and opacity. How does it compare to other wines of the same How do you pronounce it?
I say varietal. Yeah.
Varietal. Is it darker, more intense, harder to see through? Take a mental snapshot for later. These hints will show how bold, rich, and vicious the wine is. Here are the 2 charts that can help you develop a baseline.
Okay, good. So this is talking about just look at the wine. Look at what color it is, and think about how it compares to other wines of the same grape varietal. And then it says check out the opacity. What does opacity mean? Opacity.
The condition of lacking transparency.
Good. So opacity is how transparent or opaque the liquid is. If it's transparent, you can see through it. If it's opaque, you can't. So opacity is whether it's how much you can see through it. All right. And then take a mental snapshot. That means take a picture in your head for later. And think about how the wine looks and what that might mean. Okay, step 2, smell. Who would like to read the paragraph about smell?
Me.
Okay, go ahead, Carlos.
Okay, time to pay attention. Identifying smells beforehand make tasting flavors in wine easier. Start by swirling the glass to... Oh, I can read. Okay, thank you. The wine, I don't know. The glass to aerate the wine and release its aromas. To swirl a glass, place in a flat on a table and move your hand as though you're throwing tiny circles in the base. Now stick your nose in there and take a big sniff. What do you smell? Refer to red and dark red flavors in wine to get ideas.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so smell. So step 1 is look, and step 2 is smell. So you have to start by, here I have my wine glass. You swirl the glass, that means you do this. You swirl the glass to aerate the wine and release its aromas. So that means aerate means get air into it. So you're getting air into the wine and you're releasing the smells that it has. This article recommends that to swirl a glass, you should place it flat on the table and move your hand as though you were drawing tiny circles with the base. So that means like this. And then stick your nose in there and take a big sniff. So when you see people making fun of wine tasting or talking about wine tasting, sometimes you'll see them doing this. But it's really true. It actually does help to really stick your nose inside the glass and smell what the wine smells like. So, okay, step 3 is taste. Who would like to read the paragraph on taste?
I would do it. Okay. Taste. Who doesn't love this step? Take a mouthwash-sized sip and briefly swish it around your mouth to make sure it coats your entire tongue before you swallow. Think about the flavors, textures, and body of the wine. Is it sharp? Does it make your tongue feel dry? Do the flavors match the smells from earlier? Can you name a fruit, mineral or spice? Does it have an alcohol burn? Revisit smelling the wine after your first sip to help formulate any conclusions. Guesses are okay too.
Okay, good. So this is the most important step is actually tasting the wine.
Do you have any wine in your room?
I don't have any open wine at the moment. Otherwise, I could do a demonstration for you guys. But
very bad.
But I have to use my empty glass instead.
You have glass, but you need wine.
Yeah, I know. I forgot that part of the lesson.
Don't make it drink. Come on, guys.
It's only 10 in the morning for me, so that would be an aggressive day.
You must try Chilean wine.
The French people drink a lot.
I definitely will try. I will try Chilean wine. They might have it in France. I don't know, but they definitely will have it when I get home to the U.S. Okay, so the tasting step. You're supposed to take a mouthwash-sized sip, so just a little sip, and swish it around your mouth. So it's kind of like when you take mouthwash and you like gargle with it. That's what you're supposed to do with wine, which is a little bit weird. But you're supposed to get it to be in your whole mouth. Then think about what it makes you think about. So what flavors you can think of. And actually, when I taste wine in France with my friends, they say you can say anything. You taste the wine and you can say, oh, I taste cherry, or oh, I taste peach, or oh, it tastes like strawberries, and it's okay. You're allowed to guess, which is weird, but there's actually sometimes no real right answers with wine, because you can say what it makes you think of or what you think it tastes like. So even though sometimes people are snobby and they pretend that there's only one right answer to tasting wine, really when you taste wine, you can actually talk about whatever you want. You can say whatever you want about it, because it's about what it makes you taste and how it makes you feel. So it depends on you and how you taste the wine. All right, cool. 2 more paragraphs, and then we'll know how to taste wine. So the next paragraph is swallow/spit. Who would like to read this one?
Me.
Okay, go ahead, Igor.
Swallow spit. Oh my, have you ever rationalized swallowing because you'd hate to taste wine? There are some good reasons to spit. Maybe the wine doesn't suit your taste, or you want to save yourself for better wine. Maybe you need to drive, or better yet, maybe you want to be sober enough to actually taste all the wines as a tasting. As long as you are safe, we won't judge you either way. If you're tasting 20 wines in a day, you might want to learn how to spit.
Okay, good. So if you're going to drink the wine, you can swallow it. And if you don't want to drink it, you can spit it out. It seems kind of rude to spit out wine, but sometimes people choose to politely spit it out because maybe you need to drive, or maybe you want to be sober enough to taste all the wines. Sober means Sober means not drunk. Sober is the opposite of being drunk. Good. Okay. So as long as you're safe, we won't judge you either way. That means they don't care what you do as long as you don't drive when you're drunk. Okay. Last paragraph is step 5 now. Step 5 is think. Who would like to read this last step?
Okay, I will do it again.
Okay.
Too many guides focus on the superficial nuances of wine tasting. Wine tasting is a head game. Confidence and bold assertion can often make someone look like a pro who actually knows nothing. Don't be afraid to pipe up and offer your suggestions. There are no wrong answers. Although, if every wine smells like burnt toast, you might want to see a doctor.
Okay, so good. If every wine smells like burnt toast, you might have a problem. You might want to see a doctor. Okay, good. So I like this last paragraph. I think you don't need to be an expert to taste wine. I've done a lot of wine tasting, and I don't know a lot about wine. But if you think about it, then you can come up with some interesting answers, and there are no wrong answers. I like the sentence that says confidence and bold assertion can often make someone look like a pro who actually knows nothing. They've actually done experiments where people go into a winery and they want to do a wine tasting. And if you pretend like you know wine very well, the people at the winery will think that you're right. If you act like you don't know anything about wine, they'll also think that you're right. So the solution is, seriously, if you pretend you know about wine, people will believe you. And the reason is because there's no right answers. You can make up whatever you want because it depends on the individual person and how you taste wines. So the number one lesson to learn from today is just pretend you know what you're doing, and everyone will think that you're really smart and you know how to taste wine. So that's the lesson I wanted to teach you all.
Good.
Okay, no problem. So any questions about what we've read, or any thoughts about tasting wine? Anything you want to talk about?
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, when we read at the taste part, there's the word sharp. What does it mean?
The word sharp?
Yeah, sharp.
Good. Sharp is normally in general, when something's sharp, it's like it pokes you, it's sharp. So for a taste to be sharp, it means it's kind of
good taste.
It's a good taste, but it's a very strong taste. Sharp, it's kind of like it strikes you a little bit. So sharp cheeses are aged cheeses that are hard, and they give you this sort of sharp taste in the back of your mouth. Same with sharp wines. Yeah, it kind of means that it's one type of strong taste.
Is it like more alcoholic, like you said before?
Yes, it can be an alcoholic taste, or there is a substance in wine called tannins that bring bitterness to wine. Mm-hmm. So sharp is kind of related to bitter a little bit. So it's a good thing. It's not bad for something to be sharp, but it means that the taste is a little bit strong.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Any other
I think
questions?
Google smell would help in this case.
Yes.
And is it true that in France they drink a lot of wine?
Yes. My friends in France drink wine every day. It's a very important part of the culture in France.
Every day a bottle? Or half bottle?
No, usually they'll drink maybe 2 glasses of wine with dinner every day.
In the morning when they wake up, before the job.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe some people do.
They prefer wine instead of water?
Actually, in a lot of restaurants, wine is really cheaper than water. Wine costs less than water, so that part's true.
Interesting.
In general, the people with seafood drink white wine.
Yeah, and actually this website has a really cool diagram. If you look on the page that we were reading, right over here on the right-hand side, it says 5 tips to perfect food and wine pairings. If you find that diagram, there's this picture with the different foods. It's really cool because it shows you what foods go best with what wines. Let me see. Yeah, it's this, the pairing wine and food chart. And if you click on it, it'll show you which foods go along with which wines, which I think is pretty interesting. And then
can we get the link, please?
What did you say?
If we can get that link.
Sure. Yes. There's the link for that one.
Thank you.
And you have to click on the photograph, I think, because that's just the article. And then this website also has a really cool diagram, this diagram, that shows all the different types of wine and how you can describe them. So the red wines, white wines, and rosés, sparkling wines, and fortified wines. And so if you ever are wondering what type of wine something is, this is a good diagram. Rosé is in between, as you can tell by the color, it's in between a white wine and a red wine as a pink color. So
Portugal wine, sparkling wine.
yeah, and fortified wines, yeah, you can see they have port wines here. So port wines are an example of fortified wines. And then the sparkling wine, you have, that refers generally to champagne. So.
Okay.
And I hope that's some good information for you all, even for those of you who don't drink wine. I think it's interesting to learn about how to taste it.
Yeah.
And I thank you all for your great work, as usual, and I hope to see you in my future Verbling classes. You can like my Facebook page if you haven't already, and follow me on Verbling as well to keep up with my class schedules and give me suggestions. And thank you all for your great work today.
Not
Thank
working.
you.
Thank you for your
Okay, bye-bye.
See you.
Bye.
Have a nice